Chamberlain Field was a hallowed ground for us. It had been there for years and years and years, and it had developed into the point of a few bleachers, wooden bleachers, and into what it was by the time it was ready for demolition. When the field itself and the buildings and the outskirts of it were demolished, the university at that time saved all of those things that were historical in that point, and they ended up putting that into the pavilion that's now on the field now.
Chamberlain was, it was really an interesting field. Of course, we lived right there in the dorms, and then our locker room for the games was underneath in the bowels of the stadium. The field itself could have improved.
One end zone went up, and the other end zone down there by the parking lot, if you caught a ball and didn't stop fast enough, you were going down the hill.
There was a place on the field where it went up in the end zone, and as a receiver, I would run my routes and intentionally go that way, so I was always on the upper level to catch passes in the corner of the end zone.
We played night games. The end zone, the street, that corner, you know, it was just dark. I mean, that edge where we came out of our locker room and ran onto the field. Well, all that was dark because I was a tight end, so I used to, you know, they throw the ball to you, you know, it's right there it was.
I remember that it was sort of a quaint place to be in. It was relatively small. Football field, of course, is the same size. Most of the seats were pretty good. Everything was on a smaller scale. We only had about 1,500 students, as I recollect.
You know, I always remembered it as a full house every time we played.
We would fill it up. I've got pictures of Chamberlain Field just being totally packed.
We played Parsons University, a rogue university out of Iowa, I think they were, and just jam-packed. You know, 9,000 people back then was a lot of people.
I remember the Mississippi Southern game in 1958 where the place was packed.
Yeah. We
had 13,000 people, and you know they were sitting in the aisles, and we had bleachers in the end zone at that time.
Yeah.
And we had bleachers on the other end of Chamberlain, on the end of the Oak Street stands. They were full. So it was a great day, and they beat us, and there was a lot of close calls in that game. But anyway, it was a great football game, and there was just a lot of great games at Chamberlain Field.
I think my mother saw me play my first football game in Chamberlain Field.
I can remember my father driving up from Jersey to see a game, and I've got a picture of he and I speaking on the sidelines. I'm leaning up on the side, and he's leaning over talking to me, and the football field was, you know, 6 yards away, 7 yards away, and that intimacy was very important.
I had a bunch of great memories there, from spring games to football games we played in. Caught my first touchdown pass at Chamberlain. It was a neat place to play. You know, it was right here on campus, so that made it a little more special. There was a lot more folks around and all that, you know. But it was a neat place to play. I mean, we beat Marshall there, and we had, you know, we enjoyed playing there.
I thought it was a great stadium to play in.
It was just a great atmosphere. It just seems like you were a whole lot closer to everything at Chamberlain Field.
Where did you guys practice at?
Scrappy Moore. It was in a hole though. The track was elevated about 6 to 8 feet. There was a cinder track around Scrappy Moore Field, and the field itself was down in the bottom. But I spent some of the hottest, most miserable days of my life there. I'm serious. And I mean, you're talking about in August when it's 100 degrees and you don't get any water.
That was the hottest place in the world, bar none. It was down in that hole and there was no breeze there. And I remember they had these little tiny cups, They give us 1 cup of water. I can still remember the old McGregor helmets we wore. Half a lemon would fit right inside of that helmet, and I'd have me I'd cut a lemon in half and slide them inside and slip around and suck that lemon during practice to get some sort of moisture in your mouth.
We tried everything. You know what Johnson grass is? Because we pick grass and chew it.
Long practices and tough practices, and the faint and weak hearted left.
Yeah, the toilet bowl. Usually the toilet bowl was reserved for second teamers, third teamers. Sometimes we didn't usually have third teamers, but sometimes we did. Second and third teamers against the freshmen. The varsity guys kind of got walk through easy stuff, but it was war.
The toilet bowl was one of those kind of things that you knew in the Monday afternoon that was just going to be a long ordeal. And if you could get out of it, you wouldn't mind trying to get out of it, okay? But if you have people that played in the toilet bowl, there's usually a little story every Monday. And because you're stressed out and you played until it was time for dinner, okay? So that was about it.
I think that the key thing to say about that was that it was incredibly rough to try to single out the people that would be the ones that could survive that and to find the toughest of the toughest.
It was mainly the freshmen.
That's right.
And the people that weren't playing on Saturday or dressing on Saturday, that some of them dressed but still played in the toilet bowl.
Right, they did.
And if you didn't play on Saturday, you played in the toilet bowl on Monday. And I mean, it was a chance to get the, keep the freshmen from getting beat up by the varsity. They were playing themselves, and the rest of the week, the freshmen they would be the opponent against the varsity, offense or defense.
So we dreaded that day. If I was on the second or the third team, I dreaded that day more than any other day during the week. It was just, I don't know, it's just something that happened over a period of time, and the toilet bowl became infamous at UTC, at University of Chattanooga. So.
The story, I want one of the people to tell the story about Scrappy falling down the hill. And I'm going to tell a version that I heard, but I know there's going to be 2 or 3 other versions. I do know it happened, but I don't know the exact version. It was prior to my time here.
Yeah, I was there.
We had a little field below Chamberlain Field. There were sorority houses down there along Douglas Street. And behind the sorority houses was this field.
Yeah.
And it's called the Bullpen.
But it was maybe 20-foot hill or something like that. And Scrappy would stand up there and watch things go on, and it was like being in a tower. Bear Bryant had a tower, he stood on the hill.
That's where my father and the linemen did their drills.
Yeah.
And when they weren't practicing down at Scrappy Moorfield. And anyway, one day we were up here practicing, and I don't know why we were down in that bullpen that day, but he was standing up there on that hill, and he got excited.
He just gets excited and goes down the hill swinging his hands and talking to Coach Nardo, and I see him. I'm up on the upper field with the backs and ends. The linemen are down in the bullpen, and he gets excited, slinging his arms around, and first thing you know, he disappears.
He came running off that hill, tumbled down there like a hot dog.
And he goes rolling down that hill. Everybody runs going to see about him. They stop, and he gets up like a little, just quick, jumps up, starts laughing, and everybody breaks in and laughs too. And but they don't laugh long, because he's right back to business and nobody says a word.
And that story is told, and it's been embellished and changed. I do know it happened, but what exactly caused it, I don't know. But my version is he got mad at something and kicked the dirt, and it slipped out from under, and his whole body went down, and he fell down the hill. Funny.
He could be a character, I remember that, and jump up and down on the sidelines, that sort of thing.
Coach Moore had a clipboard, and everything that he wanted done, and he needed to do, things that he needed to emphasize to us, he had it on that clipboard.
He had these plays that he would say, all right, east set, right, fly out, throw back to the quarterback. You know, he had these plays on there that I could remember seeing, you know, and the way he talked.
And I never ever saw him in practice or at a ball game when he didn't have that clipboard.
Oh, you know, you've heard all these wonderful stories about Coach Moore. Coach Moore was a very dapper, dressed gentleman, and his voice, as everybody's told you, he had this high-pitched voice. But his pregame speeches were legendary. My first year here in '62, we opened up with, I guess, Bobby Bowden's team. What is now Sanford was Howard. And Bobby Bowden was the coach there. And so Scrappy is giving his pep talk before the kickoff. And he would get all jacked up. And Scrappy had a strange way of clapping his hands. He didn't clap his hands like this. He clapped them like this. I've never seen anybody else do that besides Coach Moore. And he pursed his lips like this in between words. But he kind of getting to the climax, and he said, you got to go out there and rock them and sock them and knock them down. These Jacksonville State boys don't like this. So Coach Nardo interrupts him by saying, Coach, we're playing Howard. He says, I don't give a damn. They don't like it either. Well, everybody, you know, just lost it before kickoff. You don't expect things like that. Funny stuff. I did tell some of the underclassmen, you know, because they'd heard about Scrappy's famous pregame speeches. But what I would say to some of these youngsters is, they're all the same. It just changes. If you heard one, you've heard them all. You know, he just changed the names.
When I got there, Bert Caldwell was a senior, and my freshman year, I didn't get to dress out. And so Bert had always told me that, you know, Coach Moore says the same thing in his pregame pep talk. And so, you know, for a year I'd heard this and everything from Bert and all that kind of stuff. And so the next year, my sophomore year, I finally got to dress out. And what was so strange about it was that what Bert said that he said in the pregame pep talk was absolutely word for word. And Coach Moore ended up saying the same thing for the next 30 games that I dressed out in. And he always said, rock them and sock them and knock them down, now go get them. And that was his pregame pep talk.
Well, yeah, I'm sure I did, because it was true. He just changed the name of the subject and of the team. But having said that, and you knew what was going to happen, you still got jacked up.
I was a young 18-year-old high school student. I was in awe of it all. I went to Coach Moore's office and met Coach Nardo and Coach Ben Bullware and Coach Joe Gary. Those were the coaches there when I was there, and met all those guys. And then the four of them took us over to the practice field to try out. But I could throw the ball well, and he was impressed, I guess, because he became very friendly. And I can remember telling me he was going to give me a sheet for summer workouts. This was in the early spring when we went. He's going to give me something to do for summer workouts, and some throwing drills and some running drills and those type things. And he stayed in touch constantly with me all summer. He personally did. I got a lot of things with his signature on it, and where he had written me, and so I was impressed with the entire, and wasn't many coaches, you can't compare it to today because there were 4 coaches and that was it.
My first meeting with him was in his office, basically where he lectured me for about 30, 45 minutes, saying that he was a big believer in discipline, that he was not going to put up with any foolish behavior, and he wanted to make that perfectly clear, and he didn't care how good a football player I was. It was important to him that I be a good teammate and a good citizen. So I assured him that he would never have an issue with me, and he didn't.
Well, it's interesting. I played an East-West All-Star game. I'd signed with Memphis State at the time, and Coach Moore saw the game, and I happened to be MVP of the game, and he came to my house and offered me a scholarship, and I told him I'd already signed with Memphis. He said, that doesn't really matter. He said, it's not a binding contract. He said, you can get out of that. I got the privilege of playing for Coach Moore after he signed me to a contract. I came to Chattanooga in '58, and it was the greatest experience of my life. Coach Moore was like a father image to me. He, after I finished my playing career here and coached with him for the 1 year, he got me the job in the coaching at Noonan High School. And from there I moved to Dalton High School and stayed for 40 years. So he was a big reason for my coaching career.
Oh yeah, I was scared to death. I was just a freshman coming up here, and we reported early, of course, getting ready for school and the fall. But he was the big man, and I was the little guy, and so but it didn't take long to be around him that that fear went away. I didn't feel intimidated or anything else. I just felt like I was part of the group, and he just made you feel that way. And that's for a young guy just starting college, that's really an important thing. And he just made me feel at home immediately. So yeah, I thought the world of him.
Our particular situation with Coach Moore became not only a coach, but he became a friend to us. And it remained that way. It remained that way from we left. And when I was graduating and leaving here in it was actually in January of '68 is when all this happened. I had some other opportunities, and it was like going to a father to him. And we sat down and talked about it. So you came as a friend, you came as a player for him, but you left in some really good situations, and you thought of him as a father figure and a great friend when you left here.
Scrappy Moore put this school on the map. He was a name known by everyone, and I think that, and I don't know this is just my guessing, but I would think he saw an opportunity to produce a great football program at a small school and be successful. And then I would like to think that it's all those great players that kept him here. He must have taught a lot of life skills because you just see so much success.
He brought in character people, and he developed character on the ground. I mean, he was not only a football coach, but he had a great impression on young men at that stage of their life to go on and to do well. And some of the things that he taught in every day at practice and in a game are carried over into lifelong lessons. And I'll always be grateful for Coach Scrappy Moore.
I think it's important that he not only was the direct influence on us, but he influenced others who were influences on us. And so that mindset that we developed as individuals, when you're a kid and when you're 19 years old, you're still a kid. You're out there playing. There's a lot of things you need to learn about life. Well, football taught us that, and Scrappy taught us that, on how to deal with adversity. That's why so many of those people in that era became leaders, became coaches, became businessmen, were able to negotiate, were able to talk to people because they developed that through intercollegiate athletics and people like Scrappy Moore. I think and it's also, I think, a tribute to the university. You know, our university wasn't so big that we were numbers. We were part of this university. We sat in the student center over here, little old student center, and everybody was in there, whether they were players or non-players or music band students or art students or whatever. We were all together. And I think that plays on to influences how you develop as an individual.
He was supposed to play golf with us that morning. And he didn't show up. And our team was coming up 9. And I remember very distinctly, Butch Hunt was coming in the cart down the hill looking for David. He was behind us. And he went back here to find David. And when I got in, found out that Scrappy had died. That's what they were coming to get David for. He got up that morning, and I think he was going to come. He said he was going to come, and I think he got up and ate breakfast. He said he was going to lay back down, and he laid back down. And next thing I know, or Helen knew, that he was hollering for her. And she was busy and doing something in the kitchen, so she didn't stop what she was doing right away. She just thought being Scrappy. When she went back in there, he was struggling. He was gone.
It was a sad moment. You know, we had lost a legend. You know, some people are talked about and have good reputations and given acclaim, and then there's some people who transcend that into becoming legends, and that's what Scrappy was. He was a legend.
It was, you know, I think it stunned the city, and it was a great loss. Because, I mean, after all, he was a legendary character, and if you're that long at some program, you just think they'll be around forever.
I think he's a man that deserves all the accolades, all the recognition a person of his stature should get. He influenced thousands of people. He influenced the sport of football locally and nationally. He was a person that you were proud to have played for and known. So I think the world of him.
You know, his influence goes further than football, and I think most people realize that he's not just the person that our mascot is named after. He truly is a legend, and he's part of the foundation of this university.
We started trying to get Scrappy in, and everybody loved Scrappy, but they said, well, show me his accomplishments. And I said, well, let me show you a town. Let me show you a city. I said, that belongs to Scrappy. So we battled that for about 3 years, and then next thing you know, we get him in the Hall of Fame, and that was a big lift.